I am writing the third book on synthetic biology, just so you know. I won't have to talk about that later. That is the third part of this picture. And how this all happened was that I started with Chemtrails Heart. I was asked by Adam Parfrey at Farrell House if I could write a book on chemtrails. Some of you have probably heard me say that a million times on the internet in all the talks I've given. But it was important because Adam gave me a break to come in. He died exactly 1 year ago yesterday, and his death was, needless to say, suspicious. So Adam really put me forward as as an author. In his retinue of authors, I was quite unusual. I was not writing weird stuff and personalized. I was actually doing lots of footnotes and research. So I want to thank Adam Parfrey for having done that. I will go with Farrell House for the third book, and then my hope is that I will be done and have said as much as I can to the public about how to survive what is happening right now. And because we do not have a governance or a scientific community that is willing to talk. And there are many reasons for that. Transhumanism probably being the ultimate reason that we are now being subjected to a process that moving us further and further toward an AI-run civilization in which we will be transhumanist, cyborg adjusted. So I'm going to today try to build the picture, because I can see that I have many people here know all about HAARP, the High Frequency Active Aurora Research Project. They know about the ionosphere heaters, they know about that all the weather is being engineered, but there are people here who don't know that. And so that's what we really need to, I need to bring them along as well. So I'll click through quite a few slides at a rapid pace so that we can get the big picture. And that is the way I'm known, is the big picture. So it looks like we're not going to get Chris, and I might as well just slide over here and start now that I am going to need my screen back. But Scott.
So it's so hard to believe that people don't know this stuff.
Let's not go there, Robin. I don't want to go there.
Others say that you're going to stay home.
I don't want to go there. We all know that. We all know that. We all know that most people don't like bad news.
So there you go.
And they want to pretend that the government or authority figures will take care of things for us. Despite all the bad news we've had on our authority figures and the government officials and the corporations, there is that hope springs eternal in the human breast that somehow we will be bailed out. But I know that no Martin Luther King is coming, and I am simply a citizen with some skills. And I have now given 8 years of my life to this project, not knowing that it would be that long. But it doesn't matter, because each time, each layer I pull up and open ends up leading me into all sorts of new insights into this. And it certainly fits with my spiritual life that I would be exposing the truth to the degree I can with my gifts. So it serves me well. It isn't that I'm necessarily a suffering servant that doesn't really want to be doing this. I want to be in service. It's a little dangerous, I realize now. Well, I realized after quite a while. But I persist, as do other activists in this anti-geoengineering movement. We have some stellar people working feverishly on the internet, on evil Facebook, yes, but because there are literally millions of people on Facebook. And so I probably turn down 5,000 people a month that I just can't get to let them into my sites, because I have closed sites. So things are moving. Things are moving. We needn't feel that no one's listening. People are, more and more. But it has to be what I call beating the bushes. Somebody, there have to be several somebodies like me who literally give everything they can to it in order to keep the momentum going as people begin to wake up. And, you know, there are people who are at the beginning phase. They're at the, gosh, aren't carbons the problem? Are you saying that climate change is not due to global warming? Are you saying there is no global warming? No, it's more complex than that. It's very complex, and all I do is I bring in the military-industrial intelligence complex part. That's what's missing from all the conversations that go on at all the conferences that are big money. And now, as you know, environment has become a big business opportunity. And there are all sorts of bioengineering opportunities. Obviously, we have entered a new time, a new era, in which the fat cats will become fatter. And the thing that is most unique is we have seen various parts of the United States and other nations, certainly developing nations, used as experimental lab rats for our various weapons and our chemical, biological warfare weapons. We've seen that. But this is a global delivery system. This is brand new. There is no way around it. This is a delivery system. And my purpose is to show you approximately how it works. And hopefully you will read the books. I'll give you now just a sense of those books so that you know what you would be purchasing if you did buy one. Am I getting rich on these books? I made, let's see, I made $5,500 last year in royalties. My publisher gets 93% of every book I sell. I get 7%. So let's dispense with the idea that I'm trying to pander my books to become wealthy and live in the Bahamas. That's not going to happen. But Chris, are you there?
He's here.
Can I hear him?
Yeah. Chris, can you hear us?
We can't hear him. Chris has given 2 other talks with me in California and New Mexico, and I count him as a friend. I count him as Mr. Electric Universe.
How about now, Chris? Can you hear us?
Ask him if he's got his sound on.
Chris, do you have your sound on? Can you say something?
But has he got his sound on?
Chris?
Chris, have you got your sound on? Nod if you do. Okay. All right. So the Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth was published in 2014. The strengths of that book are, I go through the whole thing of the chemtrails and basically lay out what we knew by 2014. I have varying opinions about the fuel problem, the JP8 fuel. We all disagreed at that time about what was going on, how the delivery was being made. I go into, this chapter 2 is dedicated to Bernard Eastland's 1987 HAARP patent, which lays out very clearly that the delivery of nanoparticles is essential to ionizing the atmosphere. It's all there. It's right in the patent. I go paragraph by paragraph thanks to the help of independent scientist Clifford Carnicom. Chapter 8 is on Morgellons and is Clifford Carnicom. I go through over 100 papers of his at his site and lay out the important parts of Morgellons and his discovery process. I just finished presenting 2 weeks ago in Santa Fe with Clifford, and he has now spent over 20 years on this. And then the other strength of the book, in my opinion, is that I go through all the hurricanes. We were in the hurricane experimentation phase in those years. I go through every single one, including Fukushima, and point to what HAARP was doing and how HAARP was involved in days previous to those earthquakes. So proving that it's a scalar weapon system, and that's the strengths of those books. All right, so that book led me to a whole can of worms that I needed to go into regarding the old Space Fence project. You knew it as the Strategic Defense Initiative in the 80s with Reagan, Bush, and Cheney. And that was, we called it Star Wars, because lo and behold, gosh, they brought out a pre-programming series of films called Star Wars in 1977 to prepare us for the SDI program. But they discovered that the SDI program would not work for what they needed because the atmosphere was too empty. It just wouldn't conduct. They wanted conductivity in our atmosphere. So that's about when Bernard Eastland presented his brilliant patents for an ionospheric heater coupling that could go on between the troposphere and the ionosphere, and how it would be done with these ionospheric heaters that we already had some of, but nothing on the scale of the power of HAARP. So that led me to going back into the SDI with its space fence. At that time, the space fence was just a necklace across the southern United States from coast to coast, a radar installation. They tabled that. First, they renamed it under Clinton as the Ballistic Missile Program, Ballistic Missile Defense Program, I think it was called. And then it sort of went black, right? Disappeared. We didn't know what happened to it. And then, lo and behold, it arises again once HAARP is built, once all the HAARP experimentation is finished by 2013, and they now are able to say that they control the ionosphere. And I will show that little film clip today to prove that. And then now we have an ionized atmosphere. It's all electric, it's all battery ready, it's wireless ready. Meanwhile, they're selling all of you on these, wow, these cool phones, just can't do without one. I do without one. And so we're in a wireless mesh, and it's a neuron mesh that Elon Musk is talking about. It's not just in our brain, it's everywhere. It's all around us now, it's in our bodies. There's so much that's in our bodies now. So that's what I go into in the Space Fence book, how this whole infrastructure on planet Earth has been set up to hold us on Earth as we have above Earth, in near-Earth orbit. We have a whole bunch of sensors, a whole bunch of nanoparticles of conductive metals, many, many things going on all the way around. And that is what I call the space fence, along with all the instruments that they're using for control down here, including your cell phones. By the way, can you turn those cell phones off now? That's how that book happened. It came through, after a coast-to-coast interview I had with whatever his name was then. I was contacted by a guy named Billy Hayes, the HAARP man, and I was then sort of married to Billy. He kept reminding me, I noticed, over the internet. He lives in Kansas. I was sort of married to him in a way because we were always on the phone or on Skype, and I was recording all of our conversations and going over them in detail after we finished. Billy was an MK-Ultra survivor of the U.S. military, and he had been crawling up towers and doing calibration for the military since he was 8 years old. His father had belonged to the CIA as well. And so Billy knew by chapter, verse, and wrote all the electromagnetics that I needed to know about and that were my particular weakness. I mean, I have a biology background, I do not have a physics background, so I've had to really scramble to understand all of the things that I write about. And Billy was a huge help to me those 2 years it took me to write Under an Ionized Sky. So now Billy is fighting for his life. He always has terrible health problems, tumors throughout his body from crawling up 240 microwave installations, phased array antenna installations around the world. So, you know, I always give thanks to Billy. Without Billy, I don't think that book would exist. Then through that book and discovering all the nanotechnology that is now part of our lives without any vote or any information to the public about it, I have begun the synthetic biology book, which will be quite different from the other two. In the other two, I sort of prove myself that I can understand this technology, that I do understand how it works, that I do have a big piece of the big picture without having access to classified documents. Most documents are on the web, by the way. They just assume you won't understand how to contextualize them, and so they don't care that you can read them. It doesn't matter to them. But for me, I now see, with Clifford Carnicom's help, and the help of others that I've attracted, you can imagine I have quite a list of friends now who are trying to help me from the sidelines, and some of them being anonymous scientists who somehow find a way to contact me and let me know things I need to know. So that's where it's at, and I'll be done. I hope to be done in the next 6 months. Then it takes Feral House and the whole publishing racket a year to publish things, and so you know that gives it a time frame. So I assume we're not in business.
We're not in business. The best thing to do, I think, is to proceed with your presentation.
Going to do that right now. All right. Okay, so I hope you don't get tired of the back of my head, but I kind of need to look at my screen, and then I will now and then have notes that I'm talking about. Okay, I don't know where Tesla's name went, but anyway, Tesla said this, not me. I wanted to illuminate the whole Earth. There is enough electricity to become a second sun. Light would appear around the equator as a ring around Saturn. And that's why the illustration is as it is. As you will see in a moment, we are forming a ring around our equator, similar to the rings around Saturn, right now. I wanted to draw this to your attention quickly. I just want to handle a couple of things, just to be very upfront with you. From Mein Kampf, in the big lie, there is always a certain force of credibility because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily. And the reason I bring this up is that when HARP, the huge phased array antenna farm you see here, when it was brought into existence in the 90s, from that time on, a huge propaganda machine began to condition Americans to believe that there was an environmental crisis, but of course it had nothing to do with the military. It had only to do with our cars, our pollution, this thing called global warming, carbons, etc. That's how it came to birth that long ago. Here is Rosalie Bertell, the epidemiologist who died in 2012. She said in her fantastic book, Planet Earth, The Latest Weapon of War, a critical study into the military and the environment, the ability of the HARP/Space Lab/rocket combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. Here is, let's see, how am I going to do this? Or you just do it? Who did the film? Somebody in Japan? Yeah,
Obviously.
So what you're looking at is obviously chemical trails. And the reason I say chemical trails is moisture clouds would not provide what is needed for chemical electromagnetic operations. You know that. The more moisture in an atmosphere, the less wireless conductivity you're going to have, period. Period. You cannot have moisture clouds for wireless operations, such as bringing an earthquake halfway around the world to strike at a certain time that is already logarithmically, algorithmically set. So those are pulses you're seeing. Sometimes you'll see them over Olympia. Olympia is kind of a problem, isn't it? Because we're accustomed to cloud cover. So we think we know what clouds are. We think we know what we're looking at. We don't even look at them. Most people don't even look at them. It's just more of the same. We have not learned in the Pacific Northwest how to observe our clouds. When I travel to other cities and parts of the country, they can really observe, because they're accustomed to clear skies as well. There is no clear sky anymore, by the way. It's just a sort of hazy kind of clear that's going on with lots of particulates in it. And you will now know that when people ask you about that the particulates are essential for wireless operations. They have got to be in the sky 24/7, or you cannot conduct multitudes of wireless operations. So there's another picture of it, harmonic resonance manipulation. So we're talking about frequency here, right? Talking about pulsing, about frequency. This is the name of the game now. Everything is about frequency. This is how the scalar weapon works. When you use the ionospheric heaters as beams, could you use a laser beam if it were strong enough? Yes, you could. You could use any directed energy weapon if it were strong enough over a target area. You would have 2 to 3 beams. 3 beams for a holograph. If you're going to do some sort of hologram in the sky, not just Jesus and Mary, but maybe something else, you're going to need 3. But otherwise you can use 2. And you cross beams over the target area, the interference zone, and then you let fly. And the scalar potential beams will do their job. Now, for scalar, I am no expert. I too am studying it. This is a whole other ball game, and it is exactly what HARP was created to do, is scalar operations. For this, those who are taking notes are very wise. I highly recommend that you read Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden's 1992 essay background for pursuing scalar electromagnetics. I discussed scalar in chapter 3 of Under an Ionized Sky, along with the disappearance of the concept of ether, and along with what it means to live in a plasma era under a plasma atmosphere. And now I'll play this, and you said I could put that up there.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of you this morning. Very interesting. I wanted to ask a couple questions here about HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities there. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility, and they're taking steps to demolish it or take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us, and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation, and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed, or would you lose something if HARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. The P in DARPA is projects, and we're not in the business of doing the same thing forever. So very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HARP?
Thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past.
Oh, at least.
We took over from the Navy and managed it, and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there, and had finished our work that we were interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed. The Air Force has maintained the site for other government agencies to use for several years now.
Then the lies start there, so we don't need to listen to those. But you heard it straight from the horse's mouth, that HARP was designed to control the ionosphere. All right, so that is happening now, and our atmosphere has become a mini ionosphere for all the different types of military operations, military-industrial operations. And I have to include industrial because we're talking Lockheed Martin, talking Raytheon, L3, all of the top 10 defense contractors are extremely involved in this program. And they're all in some way related to the CIA. From the very beginning, the CIA has been involved in HAARP, from the very beginning, and the SDI program. CIA is not what you have been taught to believe it is. It is far more powerful than we even want to know. So along with this, I noticed that Dr. Provenar, or whatever her name was, she didn't mention what HAARP really does, and I'm not sure everybody here knows. Chris Fontenot, who we can't get up here right now, he said this to me, he wrote this to me: ionospheric charging, Alvin waves, solar radiation influx, DEW technology, all come with HAARP. They say hurricanes are a product of evaporation and water temperature with no reference to atmospheric charge potential. Ion channeling is the mechanism to propagate energy, yet they don't mention Alvin wave downward cascade. HAARP, which Eastland designed, didn't simply heat an area of the ionosphere. It created Alvin waves that energized the entire planet and induced solar activity via out-of-phase Brooklyn current filaments between the Earth and Sun. If we're going to win this debate, we have to do the research to fully understand this mechanism. If we don't seize this opportunity, their next move is already in place to blame the sun for climate change. I have the evidence to make the connections, and I'm not the originator of this idea. So the antenna up with HAARP is extraordinarily powerful. It leads you to believe that they're shutting it down and that the University of Alaska is going to rent it out for various experiments to private organizations, but that is really not the case. HAARP works in tandem with two other instruments in the state of Alaska, and the three of them comprise a weapon system in themselves. So let me be clear about that. HAARP is not going to go away. Okay, I want to just say here is a graphic that they would like us to believe is accurate. I tend not to trust any graphics. I don't know about you. Depends who made it, right? So carbon dioxide removal, ocean iron fertilization, CO2 capture, and then up above we see reflective aerosols, we see cloud seeding, etc. The space mirrors, sometimes you might go here, I don't think we've seen it, but in some places they're seeing a dual sun, like two suns in the sky. That would be, in my opinion, it could be the solar, the fake sun that we now have up there. China has one, we have one, other nations have one. But more probably it's that barium is in the atmosphere and that you are seeing a mirroring effect, would be my best guess. So just to know that it doesn't mean that Nibiru has come any closer, and it doesn't mean that that we now don't have a real sun. It's very easy in ignorance, and it's okay for us to say we're ignorant because it's a curve, it's a spectrum moving toward knowledge. Not to jump to conclusions of aliens, planets, space brothers, whatever it is. I don't mean to say that there might not be certain things going on that are right on the metaphysical line between metaphysics and physics. I do think there are some things going on, and I'll show you CERN in a moment. But I don't think you should jump very quickly. I think better to read. And I would recommend other books to you to read. I'm reading a book on plasma physics right now. I've been reading it for probably a year and a half. That's the snail pace at which I'm going. But I can't recommend any other book like mine because they have not been written. I find it absolutely stunning that I am the only person who is writing along these lines. I really don't understand it. I know I'm not the only person thinking these things. So you'll have to read my books first, and then hopefully by then there'll be other books out. So originally, Space Fence was a belt of radar installations. I mentioned that. Bernard Eastland's 1987 patent for HAARP cleared the way to develop a 24/7 ionized atmosphere. In 2012, CNN described the Space Fence as, quote, a series of radar signals managed by the Air Force since the early 60s that has been tracking an ever-growing pile of rocket and satellite parts and other man-made fragments that zoom around Earth's vicinity at thousands of miles per hour. CNN said the Space Fence was worn out and needed to be re-strung. Like, you know, a string of pearls, maybe. 5 years on, we still hear very little about the Space Fence, other than in the context of space garbage. The new unit going up in Kwajalein Atoll of the Marshall Islands, and cool Lockheed Martin space videos, like the one I'm going to show you in a moment. Let me put this one here. Now this is chemical trails, and for those who still are caught on the two-pronged chemical trail versus contrail, I'll just read you this from my first one. Turn that down and speed it up. Oh yeah, I can control that, thank you. From the ground, we are accustomed to observing contrails in jets' wakes. The possibility that the government and its media have not seen fit to tell us that we might be looking at something different should not surprise us. A contrail typically forms one wingspan behind the aircraft. That's the U.S. Air Force distance standard. But photographic and video evidence consistently indicate that a very different aerosol trail, you could call it a chemtrail, you could call it persistent contrail, forms near the engines. And then there is the presence of persisting spray or condensation, which does not indicate the usual water or ice vapor, but rather the presence of particulate matter, perhaps chemicals in the jet fuel and or what the military terms chaff. For ice crystals to persist in contrails at -40 centigrade, the altitude moisture content, the humidity, is crucial, which means that contrails can also occur at low altitudes, especially in the cold winter months. Once airborne particles like barium or aluminum are added to create more nuclei for atmospheric moisture to condense around in low humidity areas, droplets will freeze into persistent plumes at much lower altitudes and higher temperatures, such as the persistent contrail over the Afghani desert that the New York Times ran a photograph of in 2011. That's in the book. So what you're seeing over Olympia, and I do look up quite a bit, is you're seeing chemical trails. And the term chemtrails, by the way, just to remind you one more time, came from the U.S. Air Force Academy. It is not a conspiracy nut term. It was created by the military. Now they beat us to death with it and make us look stupid and crazy. But it was on the manual for pilots in the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1990. Okay, so last thing about the Space Fence. The truth is that the Space Fence is about far more than space debris, satellites and rockets. In fact, it is CNN's word restrung that points to the truth of what it is about. Like Jade Helm, do you remember Jade Helm? Oh, good, because you don't have amnesia yet. Good. Like Jade Helm, the military exercise in the American Southwest in 2015, the space fence is about global network-centric warfare. Remember that term, network-centric warfare, NCW, under artificial intelligence in order to master, and remember this term, to master the human domain. That's straight from the military. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is the carbons that is such a point of contention among people, such that I never mention the C word in Olympia at all anymore. As for blaming carbons for global warming, the real carbon burners are military F-15s, Apache gunships, Abrams tanks, and non-nuclear carriers. In 2006, the U.S. Air Force burned 2.6 billion gallons of jet fuel. According to the EPA, each gallon of gasoline produces 19.4 pounds of carbon dioxide and diesel 22 pounds. The carbon question is much more complex than we are led to believe. Is carbons our main problem? No. It's a problem in that we don't have enough carbon for the life forms on the planet. But in my opinion, it's another case of Goebbels' big lie. We've been lied to about it because there is a contingency in power. I don't know quite who they are, though I kind of know where they are, what organizations they're in, that really seeks to be anti-life and to undermine life on planet Earth and to produce another form of life that they themselves will create. And so a lot of the propaganda that we've been subject to is to force us out of any debate and anything that we can possibly say, because we are accustomed to taking the blame. Not sure how that happened, but I think it's centuries and centuries old that the people take the blame. Okay, now carbon-based. So solar discharges. Here is what I was talking about, the ring around the planet.
Discovered a human-made barrier around Earth, protecting against the natural particle radiation in space. They believe the bubble was formed by very low-frequency waves, or VLFs. VLFs have been found to interact with the particles in space, affecting how and where they move. VLFs are used for radio communications, including with submarines, because they can penetrate deep into the ocean. The waves can also travel far into the environment around Earth. By understanding more about how VLF transmissions help shape our space environment, we learn more about this complex region surrounding us. The more we know, the more situational awareness we have to protect our satellites from natural radiation in space.